Imagine the early morning light filtering through the canopy of a dense forest, where the only sound is the soft rustle of leaves dancing in a gentle breeze. This stillness feels like a long-lost friend to many of us who navigate the relentless hum of the modern city every single day. We often find ourselves caught in a whirlwind of sirens, construction, and the constant digital pinging that demands our attention. It is as if the world has forgotten how to be quiet, and in that forgetting, we sometimes lose touch with the rhythm of our own hearts. You might feel that even when you close your windows, the vibration of the rushing world outside still finds its way into your mind. Yet, there is a profound beauty in realizing that silence is not just the absence of noise, but a presence that we can carry within us regardless of where we stand. Think of the way a deep lake remains calm at its center even when the surface is tossed by a passing storm. We all have that center, that quiet space that remains untouched by the chaos of traffic or the pressure of a deadline. In the time of the Buddha, there was a young man named Subhata who lived in a bustling market town full of merchants shouting their prices and carts clattering over stone paths. He felt a constant agitation in his chest, a feeling that the noise of the world was slowly eroding his peace of mind. One afternoon, he sat by a small stream just outside the town gates and noticed how the water flowed around every rock and fallen branch without losing its direction. He realized that the water did not fight the obstacles, it simply moved with a quiet persistence. This is much like our journey through a noisy world. When we stop fighting the noise and instead learn to observe it without letting it take root in our thoughts, we begin to discover a silence that is resilient. You do not need to flee to a distant mountain peak to find this. The silence you seek is already here, tucked between your breaths and waiting in the tiny gaps between your thoughts. When you walk down a crowded street, try to notice the spaces between the sounds. There is the roar of an engine, and then a split second of quiet before the next car passes. There is the sound of a voice, and then a pause as the person takes a breath. By shifting your focus to these small intervals, you start to train your mind to value the stillness more than the clutter. It is like looking at a piece of art and realizing that the empty space around the subject is what gives the image its balance and grace. Without that space, the picture would be overwhelming and confusing. Our lives are the same. We need the white space of silence to make the melody of our daily actions meaningful. The Buddha once spoke about the importance of guarding the doors of the senses, not as a way to shut out the world, but as a way to choose what we allow to settle in our hearts. In a city, our eyes and ears are constantly being pulled in 1,000 directions by advertisements and bright lights. It can be exhausting to be always on the defensive. But what if you looked at these sensory inputs as guests passing through a busy station? You can acknowledge them, you can see them clearly, but you do not have to invite them to stay for dinner and spend the night. You can let the noise wash over you like rain on a sturdy roof. The rain is loud, yes, but inside the house, you remain dry and warm. There is a lovely story about a traveler who was desperately searching for a legendary valley where it was said that the silence was so pure it could heal any sorrow. He spent years trekking through deserts and climbing high ridges, always complaining about the wind or the crunch of his own boots on the gravel. One day, he met an elderly woman sitting by a simple stone well. He asked her how much further he had to go to find the valley of perfect silence. She smiled and offered him a cup of water, then told him that the valley he was looking for was actually the very ground he was standing on, provided he stopped listening to his own complaints. The moment he stopped labeling the world as too loud or too difficult, he heard the soft song of the earth that had been there all along. This reminds us that much of the noise we struggle with is actually internal. We have the noise of our worries about tomorrow and the echoes of our regrets from yesterday. These mental sounds are often louder than any construction site. When we practice mindfulness, we are simply learning to turn down the volume of these internal monologues. We are giving ourselves permission to just be present with what is, without the need to judge it or change it immediately. You might find that when you stop narrating your life in your head, the world outside actually seems a bit quieter too. Consider the lotus that grows in a pond. It is surrounded by mud and water that is often murky and full of life, yet the flower itself emerges clean and serene. It does not try to change the pond, and it does not get angry at the mud. It simply grows according to its own nature, drawing what it needs and leaving the rest. You are like that lotus. The city is your pond. The noise, the traffic, and the frantic energy are just the conditions of the environment. They do not define who you are, and they do not have to stain your inner peace. Every time you take a conscious breath amidst the rush, you are reclaiming a piece of your own territory. You are saying that for this one moment, my peace is more important than the hurry. It is a small act of rebellion against a world that demands we always be busy. You might be standing in a long line at a grocery store, or sitting on a crowded bus, and in that moment, you can choose to find a small pocket of silence. You can feel the weight of your feet on the floor, the rise and fall of your chest, and the coolness of the air. These are the anchors that keep you from being swept away by the current of urban life. There was a group of practitioners who once asked the Buddha how they could maintain their focus when the village nearby was celebrating a festival with drums and dancing. The Buddha suggested they look at the drums not as a distraction, but as a reminder of the nature of sound. Sound arises, it lasts for a moment, and then it vanishes. If you try to hold on to the sound or if you push it away with irritation, you create tension. But if you simply watch it arise and fall, you remain the observer. The silence is the backdrop upon which all sound is painted. Without the silence, the drum could not be heard. So, when you hear a loud noise today, instead of sighing in frustration, try to think of it as a pointer toward the silence that follows it. Use the noise as a bell of mindfulness. Let the honk of a horn be a signal for you to relax your shoulders. Let the shouting of a crowd be a reminder to check in with your own breath. In this way, the very things that used to disturb you become your teachers. You begin to develop a kind of inner sanctuary that no one can take away from you. Living in a noisy world actually gives us a unique opportunity to strengthen our mindfulness. It is easy to be peaceful in a quiet garden, but the real test of our practice is whether we can keep our hearts open and our minds steady in the middle of a traffic jam. It is like training a muscle. The resistance of the noise helps us build the strength of our concentration. Every time you return your focus to the present moment after being distracted, you are getting stronger. You are learning that your happiness does not depend on the world being perfectly quiet. Friends, there is a certain joy in discovering that you don't have to change your external circumstances to feel a sense of ease. You can love the city, you can appreciate the energy of the people and the convenience of the modern world, and still hold on to that precious thread of silence. It is like wearing a pair of comfortable shoes while walking on a rocky path. The path is still rocky, but you don't feel the sharpness of the stones. We often think that silence is something we have to go out and find, but it is more like something we allow to happen. It is always there, underneath the layers of our activity. When we stop adding to the noise with our own frantic thoughts and hurried movements, the silence naturally reveals itself. It is the natural state of the mind when it is not being tugged by desire or aversion. There was an old story of a carpenter who was known for his incredible focus. Even in a workshop full of sawing and hammering, he worked with a grace that made it seem like he was in a silent temple. When asked his secret, he said that he simply listened to the wood. He didn't listen to the tools or the other workers, he listened to the grain and the texture of what was right in front of him. When we narrow our focus to the task at hand with love and attention, the surrounding noise tends to fade into a harmless blur. You can practice this in small ways throughout your day. When you are washing your hands, listen only to the sound of the water. When you are eating, focus entirely on the flavors and textures. These moments of singular focus are mini vacations for your mind. They provide the rest that your soul craves. You will find that you have more energy and more patience when you gift yourself these tiny islands of stillness. It is also helpful to remember that everyone around you in the city is also looking for peace, even if they don't realize it. The person honking their horn or the person rushing past you is likely feeling the same pressure and noise that you are. When you approach the world with this understanding, your irritation turns into a soft kind of compassion. You realize that we are all in this noisy boat together, trying to find our way back to the shore of quietness. This shift in perspective makes the noise feel less like an attack and more like a shared human experience. In the ancient texts, there is a mention of a forest dweller who lived near a waterfall. At first, the constant roar of the water made it hard for him to sleep or meditate. He spent weeks wishing the waterfall would just stop for an hour. But then he began to listen to the different tones within the roar. He heard the high splashes and the deep thrums. He realized the waterfall was a symphony, not a disturbance. Eventually, the sound became so familiar and accepted that it felt like a form of silence itself. This is the power of acceptance. When we accept the noise of our urban life completely, it loses its power to agitate us. Silence is also a form of listening. When we are quiet, we can hear things that are usually drowned out. We can hear the needs of our own bodies, the subtle shifts in our emotions, and even the unspoken feelings of the people we love. In a noisy world, we often talk over each other, both literally and figuratively. By cultivating periods of silence, we become better friends and better neighbors. We learn to listen with our whole being, not just our ears. Imagine you are a mountain. The clouds come and go, the wind howls around your peaks, and the snow falls heavily. Yet, the mountain remains. It does not try to catch the clouds or stop the wind. It simply stands. You can be the mountain in your own life. Let the noise of the city be like the wind. It may be cold or loud, but it cannot move you from your foundation of mindfulness. You have an ancient, sturdy peace within you that is older than any city and deeper than any noise. Sometimes, the noise of the world is a reflection of our own internal restlessness. We seek out noise because we are afraid of what we might find in the silence. We turn on the television or scroll through our phones the moment there is a quiet moment because we aren't used to being alone with our own minds. But silence is a kind teacher. It shows us our true faces. While it might feel uncomfortable at first, like stepping into cold water, once you settle in, it is incredibly refreshing. You start to see that you are enough, just as you are, without any external stimulation. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a wild elephant that needs to be gently tamed. In a noisy environment, the elephant is easily spooked. By practicing mindfulness, we are using a soft rope to tether the elephant to the stake of the present moment. We don't pull hard or hurt the elephant, we just patiently bring it back every time it wanders off toward the noise. Over time, the elephant learns to sit calmly, even if there is a parade going by. You might enjoy finding a special place in your home that is your designated quiet zone. It doesn't have to be a whole room, just a chair or a corner. When you sit there, you are making a commitment to yourself to put down the world for a few minutes. Even 10 minutes of intentional silence can change the tone of your entire day. It is like hitting the reset button on your nervous system. You will find that when you step back out into the world, you carry a bit of that quiet corner with you in your pocket. The city is a vibrant, living thing, and its noise is a sign of life and connection. We don't have to hate it to find our own peace. In fact, finding peace while loving the world is a much more sustainable path. We can appreciate the craftsmanship of the buildings, the diversity of the people, and the incredible achievements of human society, all while remaining anchored in our own internal silence. It is a beautiful dance between the inner and the outer. There was a student who once asked a teacher how to deal with a noisy neighbor who played music late into the night. The teacher said, instead of listening to the music as something happening to you, listen to it as the universe expressing itself through that person. This doesn't mean you don't ask them to turn it down, but it means you don't let your mind become a battlefield of anger. You keep your internal silence intact by not attaching your happiness to the volume of the music. This leads us to the idea of the middle way. We don't have to be monks living in caves to understand the importance of silence, and we don't have to be slaves to the noise of the city. We can live right in the middle, enjoying the benefits of modern life while practicing the ancient art of mindfulness. This is a very practical and grounded way to live. It makes our spirituality something that breathes and walks with us, not something we only do on a meditation cushion. Every word we speak and every action we take emerges from silence. If we don't have enough silence in our lives, our words can become shallow or reactive. But when we speak from a place of inner quiet, our words have weight and meaning. They become like stones dropped into a still pond, creating ripples of kindness and clarity. In a world that is often too loud, a calm and steady voice is a great gift to everyone who hears it. You might notice that when you are truly quiet, your senses become sharper. The colors of the city seem more vivid, the smell of the air after a rain is more distinct, and the touch of the wind on your skin is more noticeable. Silence cleans the windows of our perception. We begin to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. A simple walk to the bus stop becomes an adventure in awareness. You realize that there is a quiet magic happening all around you, even in the middle of the most crowded plaza. There is an old story about a king who offered a prize to the artist who could paint the best picture of peace. Many artists painted beautiful, calm landscapes with blue skies and still water. But the winning painting showed a rugged, stormy mountain with a tiny bird sitting in a nest in the crack of a rock, right behind a thundering waterfall. The bird was sleeping peacefully despite the noise and the chaos. That is the true meaning of peace. It is not about being in a place where there is no noise or trouble, it is about being in the midst of those things and still being calm in your heart. This is the invitation that mindfulness offers us. It tells us that we don't have to wait for the world to change to be happy. We can start right now, in the middle of the noise, in the middle of the city, in the middle of our busy lives. We can take a breath, feel our presence, and listen to the silence that is always humming in the background of existence. It is a silence that is full of potential and full of love. As we move through our day, let's try to be like the master of a house who knows how to keep the windows open for the breeze but the doors locked against the thieves. We keep our minds open to the beauty and the lessons of the world, but we keep our inner peace protected from the thieves of stress and agitation. We learn to navigate the city with a light touch, not gripping too tightly to our plans or our frustrations. There is a certain dignity in silence. It shows that we are in control of our own energy. When we react to every noise and every provocation, we are like puppets being pulled by external strings. But when we remain quiet and steady, we are the masters of our own ship. We choose how to respond, rather than just reacting. This gives us a sense of freedom that is very precious in a world that is always trying to tell us how to feel and what to think. Think of the great teachers throughout history. Most of them spent time in silence, not to escape the world, but to gather the strength to serve the world better. When we cultivate our own silence, we are also gathering strength. We are becoming more resilient, more compassionate, and more clear-headed. We are preparing ourselves to be a source of peace for others. Your calm presence can be a silent blessing to everyone you encounter today, from the cashier at the store to your coworkers in the office. Sometimes, people worry that being silent means being passive or indifferent. But true silence is very active. It is an active listening and an active presence. It is a way of being fully engaged with life without being overwhelmed by it. It is the foundation of wise action. When we act from a place of silence, we are less likely to make mistakes or hurt others. Our actions become more precise and more effective. You might find that your relationship with time changes when you embrace silence. In a noisy, hurried world, time always feels like it is running out. We are always rushing to the next thing. But in the silence of the present moment, time seems to expand. A few minutes of deep mindfulness can feel more restorative than an hour of distracted rest. You begin to see that you have all the time you need, because the only time that truly exists is right now. In the city, we are often surrounded by walls, both physical and mental. We build walls to protect ourselves from the noise and the crowds. But silence is a way of dissolving those walls. When we are truly quiet and present, we feel a deep connection to everything around us. We realize that the noise of the city is the sound of our fellow human beings living their lives, dreaming their dreams, and facing their challenges. The walls of me and them begin to soften, and we feel a sense of belonging. There is a beautiful ancient poem that speaks about the silence of the stars and how they watch over the world with a steady, quiet light. Even when the city lights are so bright that we cannot see the stars, they are still there, shining in the dark. Our inner silence is like those stars. It may be obscured by the brightness and noise of our daily lives, but it never goes away. It is a constant, guiding light that we can always return to when we feel lost. One of the most powerful ways to find silence is through gratitude. When we are grateful for what we have, the noise of our desires becomes quieter. We stop constantly looking for the next thing to make us happy and start appreciating the simple beauty of what is already here. Gratitude is a silent prayer that opens our hearts to the abundance of life. Even in a noisy city, there is so much to be grateful for: the morning sun, a kind word from a stranger, the strength of our own bodies. Let's also remember that silence can be shared. Sitting in silence with a friend can be a more profound experience than hours of talking. It shows a deep level of trust and comfort. In our families and friendships, we can create moments of shared silence where we just appreciate each other's presence. It is a way of communicating at a level that words cannot reach. As you go about your business today, see if you can find the melody in the noise. Every city has its own unique song. Instead of seeing the sounds as a chaotic mess, try to hear them as a complex, unfolding piece of music. This shift in perception can change your whole mood. You become a listener instead of a victim of sound. You might even find yourself smiling at the strange and wonderful symphony of the streets. There was a wise elder who used to say that the world is a mirror. If our minds are noisy and chaotic, the world will seem noisy and chaotic. But if we cultivate a quiet mind, we will find peace even in the most unlikely places. The world doesn't change, but our experience of it changes completely. This is the secret of the masters. They don't have a different world than we do, they just have a different way of being in it. You have the power to choose your focus. It is like having a radio dial in your mind. You can tune into the station of noise and worry, or you can tune into the station of silence and peace. It takes a bit of practice to find the right frequency, and the signal might drift sometimes, but with patience, you can learn to stay tuned to the quiet. Remember that you are not alone in this practice. All over the city, there are people just like you who are taking a deep breath and choosing peace. There is a silent network of mindfulness connecting us all. When you find your own silence, you are helping to quiet the world just a little bit more. Your peace is a gift to the entire universe. In the stories of the Buddha, he often spent his time in groves and forests, but he also walked through cities and met with kings and merchants. He didn't avoid the world, he just carried his silence with him like an invisible cloak. He showed us that it is possible to be fully in the world but not of the world. This is the balance we are all striving for. Every evening, when the sun sets and the city begins to slow down just a little, take a moment to acknowledge the silence that is returning. The shadows lengthen, the air cools, and the pace of life changes. This is a natural time to settle your own mind. Reflect on the moments of silence you found during the day and nourish them. Like a gardener tending to small plants, your practice of silence will grow and flourish over time. It is also important to be gentle with yourself. There will be days when the noise feels like too much, when you lose your cool and feel overwhelmed. That is okay. Mindfulness is not about being perfect, it is about being aware. When you realize you have been swept away by the noise, just acknowledge it and gently bring yourself back. Every time you return to the present moment is a success. Silence is the place where we find our true strength. It is where we recharge our batteries and find the clarity to face our challenges. In a world that is always trying to take our energy, silence is how we get it back. It is an act of self-care that is essential for our well-being. You deserve this silence. You deserve to feel at home in your own mind. Think of the vastness of the ocean. Even in the middle of a massive storm with giant waves on the surface, the depths of the ocean are perfectly still and quiet. You are like the ocean. The surface of your life may be stormy and loud, but deep down, there is a silence that is ancient and unshakable. Connect with that depth, and the waves won't seem so scary. The city is a place of endless stories. Every person you see is a protagonist in their own drama. All these stories create a lot of noise. But behind all the stories, there is a shared silence of being. We all come from the same source of stillness, and we will all eventually return to it. Recognizing this shared silence helps us feel a sense of peace and unity with everyone we meet. As you continue through this day, let the idea of silence be a gentle companion. It doesn't have to be a big deal or a difficult practice. Just a quiet awareness that follows you like a shadow. A little bit of silence goes a long way. It is like adding a drop of ink to a glass of water. It slowly colors everything. You might find that as you become more comfortable with silence, you also become more comfortable with yourself. The need for constant distraction starts to fade, and you find a simple contentment in just being alive. This is a very deep and stable kind of happiness. It doesn't depend on things going your way or the world being quiet. It is a happiness that comes from within. There was once a great library that was destroyed in a fire. Many people were devastated, but one of the scholars said that while the books were gone, the truths they contained were still held in the silence of the heart. The external forms of our lives may change, and the noise of the world may come and go, but the essential silence of our true nature is indestructible. Silence is the language of the soul. In the quiet, we can hear the wisdom that is already inside us. We don't always need to look for answers in books or from teachers. Sometimes, we just need to be quiet enough to hear what our own hearts are telling us. Your inner voice is wise and kind, but it is also very soft. You have to be quiet to hear it. The noise of the city can be like a thick fog that makes it hard to see where we are going. But silence is like a clear day where we can see for miles. It gives us perspective and helps us make better choices. When we are not being rushed by the noise, we can see the path ahead more clearly and walk it with more confidence. Consider the stars again. They don't try to compete with the city lights. They just shine. We can be like that too. We don't have to shout to be heard or push to be noticed. We can just shine with our own quiet light of awareness. People are naturally drawn to peace and stability. By being a person of silence, you are helping others find their own way to the quiet. There is a rhythm to silence, just as there is a rhythm to sound. It is the natural heartbeat of the universe. When we align ourselves with this rhythm, life feels more effortless. We stop pushing against the current and start flowing with it. Even in the middle of a busy workday, you can find this flow. It is a state of being where you are fully engaged but also deeply relaxed. As you walk through the streets, notice the trees that have been planted along the sidewalks. They stand there in the middle of the exhaust and the noise, calmly reaching for the sky and offering shade to everyone. They are masters of silence in the city. They don't complain about the concrete or the sirens. They just grow. We can learn a lot from their quiet resilience. Silence is also a way of honoring the present moment. When we are quiet, we are saying that this moment is enough, just as it is. We are not trying to get somewhere else or do something else. We are fully here. This is a very profound way of living. It turns every ordinary activity into a sacred act of presence. The beauty of practicing mindfulness in a noisy world is that every moment is a fresh start. If you got distracted a second ago, it doesn't matter. You can be silent and present right now. The past is gone, and the future is not yet here. There is only this one breath, this one heartbeat, this one moment of quiet. Friends, let's cherish these moments of connection with our own inner silence. They are the true treasures of life. No matter how loud the world gets, you always have this sanctuary within you. It is a place of safety, a place of wisdom, and a place of love. Carry it with you wherever you go, and you will never be truly lost or overwhelmed. Think of the way a musician uses silence between notes to create a beautiful melody. The silence is just as important as the sounds. Our lives are the same. The periods of quiet and reflection are what make our active lives meaningful and beautiful. Without the silence, our lives would just be a chaotic noise. You are the composer of your own life. You get to decide how much silence to include in your symphony. Don't be afraid to let the music stop for a moment. Don't be afraid of the quiet. It is in the quiet that the most beautiful parts of your life are born. In the ancient times, there was a traveler who came across a village where no one ever spoke. He was confused and thought they were all unhappy. But as he spent time there, he realized they were the most peaceful and content people he had ever met. They communicated with their eyes, their gestures, and their simple acts of kindness. Their silence was a form of deep connection. While we don't have to stop speaking, we can bring some of that silent connection into our own lives. The world will always have its noise. There will always be challenges and changes. But your inner silence is a constant. It is like the foundation of a house that stays firm even when the wind blows hard. Build your life on that foundation, and you will be able to weather any storm. As we sit here together in this mental space of reflection, feel the quiet that is present right now. It is a soft, welcoming space. There is no pressure here, no demands. Just the simple experience of being. This is your true home. You can return here anytime you want, just by taking a breath and letting go of the noise. We can think of silence as a kind of internal medicine. It heals the mind from the stress and friction of the world. It calms the heart and settles the spirit. Just as our bodies need sleep to recover, our minds need silence to stay healthy and vibrant. Make sure you are giving yourself enough of this medicine every day. There is a sense of wonder that comes with silence. When we are quiet, we start to notice the miracles that are happening all the time. We see the intricate patterns in a leaf, the way the light reflects off a glass building, and the amazing complexity of the people around us. Silence opens our eyes to the magic of existence. You are a part of this magic. You are not separate from the silence or the world. You are a unique expression of the same life force that moves through everything. When you find your inner silence, you are connecting with the very heart of the universe. It is a deeply beautiful and comforting realization. As you go about your tasks, whether they are big or small, see if you can do them with a sense of quiet grace. Move through the world like a shadow, leaving no trace of irritation or hurry. This is a very elegant way to live. It shows a deep respect for yourself and for everyone around you. Remember the story of the moon reflecting in many different bowls of water. No matter how many bowls there are, or how much the water in them is moving, the moon itself remains still and bright in the sky. Your true self is like that moon. The noise and activity of your life are just the reflections in the water. They may be distorted or shaky, but the source is always calm and clear. We have so many tools today to help us be more productive and more connected, but the most important tool we have is our own awareness. It is the tool that allows us to find the silence in the noise and the peace in the chaos. Don't forget to use it. It is the key to a happy and meaningful life in the modern world. Let's also be mindful of the noise we create for others. When we speak kindly, move gently, and live with consideration, we are helping to create a more peaceful world for everyone. Our own silence can be a sanctuary for others who are struggling with the noise. Just by being calm, you are providing a space where others can feel safe and relaxed. There is a strength in gentleness and a power in quietness. It is not the loudest voice that is the most influential, but the one that speaks with the most truth and clarity. When you speak from a place of inner silence, people will listen more deeply to what you have to say. Your words will have the power to heal and inspire. As we wrap up this part of our conversation, just take a moment to feel the silence once more. Let it settle into your bones. Let it remind you of who you really are. You are a being of light and peace, living in a vibrant and noisy world. You have everything you need to navigate this journey with grace and joy. Think of the way a great forest absorbs sound. The trees and the moss and the earth all work together to create a deep, profound quiet. You can be like that forest. Let your mindfulness absorb the noise of the city, turning it into something soft and harmless. You have a vast internal space that is big enough to hold everything. Don't be afraid to be the one who is quiet in a room full of talkers. Don't be afraid to be the one who is slow in a world that is rushing. There is a great wisdom in following your own rhythm. The world needs more people who know how to be quiet and how to just be. Your presence is more important than you might realize. Think of the silence of a seed under the ground before it sprouts. That silence is full of life and potential. It is a time of gathering strength and preparation. Your moments of silence are like that seed. They are the times when you are growing in ways that may not be visible yet, but that will eventually blossom into something beautiful. Let's take one more breath together, a deep, slow, quiet breath. Feel the peace of this moment. It is always here for you. No matter where you go or what you do, the silence is your faithful companion. It is the true home of your heart. As you step back into the flow of the world, carry this sense of quiet with you. Let it be the background music of your day. Let it be the thread that connects all your actions. You are a person of peace, and you are doing a wonderful job. May you find the stillness you seek, and may your heart be always full of the quiet joy of being alive. The world is loud, but your soul is vast and silent. Rest in that vastness and let it guide you. When we talk about finding silence, we aren't just talking about a lack of decibels. True silence is a quality of the heart. It's that feeling of being completely at ease with yourself, as if you've finally come home after a long journey. In the city, this can feel like a rare treasure, but it's one that is available to us in every single moment if we only remember to look for it. I remember a story about a monk who used to sit by a very busy crossroads in ancient India. People would rush by with their carts and their animals, shouting and arguing. But the monk just sat there with a small smile on his face. Someone once asked him how he could stand all the noise. He replied that he wasn't standing it, he was simply letting it be. He said that the noise was like a bird flying across the sky, it didn't leave any tracks. That is such a beautiful way to think about the noise of our own lives. It doesn't have to leave any tracks on our souls. We can let the sounds of the city pass through us without getting stuck. We can be like the clear blue sky that allows the clouds to move through without being changed by them. This is the heart of finding silence in a noisy world. It is also helpful to realize that noise is not our enemy. When we label something as noise, we are already creating a kind of conflict in our minds. We are saying, I don't want this sound to be here. This resistance is what causes our suffering, not the sound itself. If we can just hear it as vibration or energy, it loses its power to annoy us. It just becomes part of the texture of the moment. Think about the sound of rain on a tin roof. It can be very loud, but many people find it soothing and peaceful. Why? Because they don't resist it. They accept it as a natural part of the environment. We can learn to listen to the city in the same way. The sirens, the engines, the voices, they are just the rain of the urban world. When we stop fighting them, they can even become a kind of lullaby. Mindfulness is really just the art of being a good host. We open our doors to whatever comes, sounds, thoughts, feelings, and we let them stay for as long as they like, and then we let them go. We don't try to keep the pleasant guests and kick out the unpleasant ones. We treat them all with the same quiet hospitality. This is how we maintain our inner silence. Sometimes, when the world feels particularly loud, it can be helpful to focus on something very small and quiet. Maybe it's the way the light hits a glass of water, or the tiny movements of an ant on the sidewalk. By bringing our attention down to this micro level, the big, loud world seems to recede into the distance. We realize that there is a whole world of quietness happening right under our noses. There's a story of a great king who was so stressed by the noise of his court that he decided to build a special room made of thick stone where no sound could enter. He spent all his time there, but he found that he was still miserable. Why? Because he had brought his own noisy mind into the room with him. He realized that the stone walls couldn't protect him from his own thoughts. This tells us that the most important work we can do is to quiet our own internal chatter. We can do this by being kind to ourselves, by letting go of our judgments, and by practicing a gentle awareness. When our internal world is quiet, even the loudest external environment becomes manageable. We carry our own stone room of silence with us wherever we go. I think we often underestimate the power of a single moment of silence. It's like a drop of cool water on a hot day. It can completely change our perspective and give us the strength to keep going. So, throughout your day, see if you can find those single moments. Between two meetings, as you wait for the elevator, or as you take the first sip of your tea. These are your opportunities to reconnect with the silence. And remember, you don't have to be good at this. There's no such thing as being bad at silence. If your mind is busy and loud, that's just what's happening right now. Don't worry about it. Just notice it and be kind to yourself. The very act of noticing the noise is a step toward the silence. You are already on the path. As you move through the city, try to see the people around you with a soft heart. Everyone is struggling with something, and everyone is looking for a bit of peace. When we see the world with compassion, the noise of the city starts to feel like a shared human song. We feel less like we're fighting against the world and more like we're a part of it. I once heard about a woman who lived in a very loud apartment above a subway line. At first, she couldn't stand the vibration and the noise. But then she started to imagine that the subway was the heartbeat of the city. Every time a train went by, she would think, the city is alive, and I am a part of it. Her whole experience changed. She found a kind of peace in the very thing that used to disturb her. This is the power of our own minds. We can choose how we interpret our environment. We can choose to find the silence even in the roar of the subway. It's a beautiful kind of freedom that no one can take away from us. Let's also be mindful of the silence that exists in nature, even in the city. The way a tree stands perfectly still in the middle of a park, or the way the moon hangs quietly above the skyscrapers. These are reminders of the eternal silence that underlies all our human activity. They are like anchors that keep us grounded in the truth of our being. When we find our inner silence, we also find our inner wisdom. We start to see things as they really are, rather than how we want them to be. We become more patient, more understanding, and more loving. Our silence becomes a source of strength for ourselves and for everyone around us. So, as you go about your day today, keep a little bit of silence in your heart. Let it be your secret sanctuary. Let it be the place where you go to find comfort and clarity. You are a being of silence and light, and the world needs your quiet presence now more than ever. May you walk with peace, may you speak with kindness, and may you always find the silence that lives within you. It is a beautiful journey we are on, and I am so glad to be sharing it with you. Just take it one breath at a time, one quiet moment at a time. You are doing just fine. Think about the way the sky remains vast and open even when it is filled with thunderclouds. The sky doesn't try to push the clouds away, it simply provides the space for them to exist. We can be like that sky. Our awareness is vast enough to hold all the noise and all the silence of the world. When we identify with the sky rather than the clouds, we find a peace that is truly unshakable. There's a lovely ancient teaching that says our true nature is like a clear mirror. The mirror reflects everything that comes before it, the beautiful and the ugly, the loud and the quiet, but the mirror itself is never changed or stained by the reflections. Our inner silence is that mirror. No matter how much noise the world makes, your essential being remains clear and untouched. You might find it helpful to imagine your breath as a gentle wave that washes over you, cleaning away the noise and the stress of the day. With every inhale, you are breathing in the freshness and the quiet of the universe. With every exhale, you are letting go of the tension and the clutter of the city. This simple visualization can help you find a sense of ease in even the busiest environment. And don't forget to smile. A smile is a silent way of saying, all is well. It relaxes your face and your heart, and it sends a ripple of peace out into the world. Even if you're just smiling to yourself as you walk down the street, it makes a difference. It's a small but powerful way to maintain your inner silence. I am so grateful for this time we've spent together, reflecting on the beauty of silence. It's a topic that is very close to my heart, and I hope it has brought a little bit of peace to yours as well. Remember, the silence is always here, waiting for you. It's your true home, and you can return to it any time you like. Just keep breathing, keep noticing, and keep being kind to yourself. You are a wonderful being, and you have so much to offer the world. Your quiet presence is a gift, even if you don't always realize it. So, go out into the world today and be the silence in the noise. You've got this. When you feel the urge to rush, or when the noise starts to feel overwhelming, just stop for 1 second. Feel the soles of your feet on the ground. This simple act of grounding can break the spell of the noise and bring you back to yourself. It's like finding a solid rock in the middle of a rushing river. You can stand there for a moment and just breathe. The more we practice finding silence, the more we realize that it's not something we do, it's something we are. We are the silence that hears the sound. We are the awareness that knows the noise. This is a very deep and profound truth that can change our entire relationship with life. We no longer have to struggle to find peace, we just have to remember that we already are peace. So, as you step back into your day, take that realization with you. You are the silence in the middle of the city. You are the stillness in the middle of the storm. Let that truth guide you and comfort you. You are never alone, and you are always at home in the silence of your own heart. The beauty of the urban landscape is that it is a testament to human creativity and connection. The sounds of construction are the sounds of building a future. The sounds of the market are the sounds of people taking care of their families. When we hear the noise in this way, it loses its edge. We see the love and the effort behind the sounds. We can find a kind of silence in our appreciation for the human spirit. And as the city lights come on and the day turns into night, let yourself settle into the natural quiet of the evening. Let the noise of the day fade away like a distant memory. You have navigated the world with grace and mindfulness, and now it is time to rest in the silence you have cultivated. You have done well. The path of mindfulness is a long one, but it's a journey that is filled with beauty and discovery. Every quiet moment is a milestone. Every breath is a step forward. Don't be in a hurry to get anywhere, the journey itself is the destination. You are already exactly where you need to be. So, my friends, let's continue to walk this path together, finding the silence in the noise and the peace in the city. It's a beautiful way to live, and I am so honored to be on this journey with you. Until we speak again, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, and may you always find the silence within. Imagine for a moment a beautiful old clock that has been ticking for 100 years. The ticking is constant and rhythmic, a part of the house itself. Most of the time, the people in the house don't even hear it. They've become so accustomed to the sound that it has become a kind of silence for them. We can do the same with the noise of our lives. When we stop resisting it and start accepting it as a natural rhythm, it stops being a distraction and becomes the background of our existence. There's a story of a young monk who was trying to meditate in a forest, but he was constantly being distracted by the sound of a woodpecker nearby. He got more and more frustrated until finally he went to his teacher and complained. The teacher smiled and said, "The woodpecker is just being a woodpecker. It's you who are being a distracted monk. If you stop trying to be a monk and just be the sound of the woodpecker, you'll find your peace." This is such a powerful lesson. When we stop trying to be peaceful and just allow ourselves to be whatever is happening, the struggle disappears. If there is noise, be the noise. If there is silence, be the silence. When we stop creating a me that is separate from the world's noise can no longer bother us. We become the whole symphony, not just one frustrated listener. I think we also need to be careful about the noise we create with our technology. Our phones and computers are wonderful tools, but they can also be a source of constant mental noise. We are always checking for notifications, always looking for the next bit of information. This keeps our minds in a state of constant agitation. See if you can set aside some time every day to be completely disconnected. No phone, no computer, no television. Just you and the silence. You might be surprised at how much clearer your mind feels after even a short break. The silence we find when we disconnect is not empty. It's full of life and creativity. It's the space where new ideas are born and where we can truly hear our own inner guidance. When we are always being bombarded by external noise, we lose touch with this inner wellspring. By making room for silence, we are making room for our own growth and development. In the city, we are also surrounded by the noise of other people's expectations. We feel the pressure to be successful, to be busy, and to always be on. This social noise can be even more exhausting than the sound of traffic. But mindfulness tells us that we don't have to listen to that noise. We can choose to follow our own path and to live according to our own values. We can find a sense of quiet confidence that doesn't depend on the approval of others. There was a famous artist who was once asked how he could create such peaceful paintings while living in the heart of a noisy city. He said that he simply painted the silence he found between the buildings. He looked at the sky above the streets and the shadows in the alleys. He found the beauty in the quiet corners that most people just rushed past. We can do the same in our own lives. We can look for the quiet beauty that is hidden in plain sight. Think about the way a cat moves through the world. They are the masters of quiet and grace. They can be perfectly still for hours, and then they can move with incredible speed and precision. They are always aware of their surroundings, but they never seem hurried or stressed. We can learn a lot from their silent wisdom. See if you can move through your day with a bit of that feline grace. And as we find our own silence, let's also be mindful of the silence of others. Sometimes, someone just needs to be listened to in silence. They don't need advice or solutions, they just need someone to be present with them. Our silent presence can be a powerful form of healing and support for the people in our lives. The more we cultivate silence, the more we realize that it is a form of love. It is a way of being fully present for ourselves and for the world. It is a way of saying, I see you, and I value you, just as you are. In a world that is often too loud and too hurried, this kind of silent love is a precious gift. I once saw a small flower growing out of a crack in the sidewalk on a very busy street. It was surrounded by concrete and the noise of the city, yet it was so beautiful and delicate. It was a perfect example of how silence and beauty can flourish even in the most difficult environments. You are like that flower. No matter how much concrete and noise you are surrounded by, you can still bloom with your own unique grace. So, as you go about your day, remember that flower. Remember the sky. Remember the silence that lives in your heart. You have everything you need to find your peace and to live a happy, meaningful life. Just keep breathing, keep noticing, and keep being the beautiful being that you are. I'm so glad we had this chance to talk. It's been a real pleasure sharing these thoughts with you. I hope you find some moments of true silence today, and that they bring you a sense of ease and joy. You deserve it. Just take a deep breath and feel the quiet within. It's always there, waiting for you. It's your true home, and you are always welcome there. Have a wonderful, peaceful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Think of the way a heavy snowfall transforms a city. Suddenly, everything is muffled and soft. The harsh edges of the buildings are rounded, and the usual roar of the traffic becomes a distant hum. This is what mindfulness does for our internal world. It creates a soft layer of awareness that muffles the noise of our thoughts and emotions. Even when the world is busy, we carry this snowfall of peace within us. I remember reading about a traditional garden in Japan that was built right next to a busy railway line. The gardener used the sound of the trains as part of the experience. He designed the garden so that the rustle of the bamboo and the splash of the water would create a counterpoint to the rumble of the trains. The result was a space that felt incredibly peaceful, not because the noise was gone, but because it had been integrated into a larger, more harmonious whole. This is such a great metaphor for our lives. We don't have to get rid of the trains, of our busy schedules or our noisy environments. We just have to build a garden of mindfulness around them. We can use the noise as a contrast that makes the quiet moments even more precious. We can find a sense of harmony that includes everything, both the loud and the soft. And as you practice this, you'll find that your capacity for joy increases. When you're not constantly fighting the world, you have more energy to appreciate it. You start to notice the little things that used to pass you by, the smell of fresh bread from a bakery, the way a child laughs, the feeling of the sun on your back. These are the real riches of life, and they are always available to us when we are quiet enough to notice them. The path of silence is also a path of courage. It takes courage to stop and be still when everyone else is rushing. It takes courage to face our own internal noise without turning on the TV or checking our phones. But the rewards are so worth it. We find a sense of inner strength and stability that can't be found anywhere else. We become the masters of our own experience. So, as you step back into your day, remember that you are a person of courage and peace. You have the power to find the silence in any situation. You are not a victim of the noise, you are the one who hears it. And in that hearing, there is a profound and beautiful freedom. Take a moment right now to just feel that freedom. It's as light as a feather and as vast as the ocean. It's who you really are. And it's always here for you. Just breathe and remember. I'm so happy to have been on this journey with you. It's been a real joy. I hope these words have been a gentle reminder of the peace that lives within you. Have a wonderful, quiet day, and I'll look forward to our next talk. And don't forget, the silence is not something you have to find, it's something you already are. Just be yourself, and the silence will follow. You're doing a great job. See you soon. Think about the vastness of space. It is mostly silent, a deep and profound stillness that stretches for billions of miles. Our little world, with all its noise and activity, is just a tiny speck in that immense quiet. When we remember this, our problems and the noise of our daily lives seem much smaller. We realize that we are part of something much bigger and much more peaceful than we often imagine. There's a story of a wise old owl who lived in a tree in a very busy forest. All the other animals were always talking and arguing, but the owl just sat there quietly, watching everything with his big, steady eyes. Someone asked him why he didn't speak more, and he said, "The more I see, the less I speak. And the less I speak, the more I hear." This is the wisdom of silence. By being quiet, we open ourselves up to hearing the deeper truths of life. We hear the things that are usually hidden by the noise of our own opinions and desires. We become more observant, more insightful, and more connected to the world around us. I think we also need to be mindful of the noise we create with our own speech. Sometimes we talk just to fill the silence, or because we feel like we have to have something to say. But every word we speak uses up energy and adds to the noise of the world. See if you can practice wise speech, speaking only when it is helpful, truthful, and kind. You'll find that your words have much more power when they come from a place of silence. And when you do speak, see if you can maintain a sense of inner quiet at the same time. It's possible to talk and be mindful at the same time. You can feel the vibration of your voice, the movement of your breath, and the impact of your words on the other person. This makes your communication much more authentic and meaningful. The silence we find through mindfulness is not a cold or indifferent silence. It's a warm and compassionate one. It's a silence that is full of love for ourselves and for the world. It's the silence of a mother watching her sleeping child, or the silence of two friends sitting together at sunset. This kind of silence is the foundation of all true connection. So, as you go about your day, see if you can bring a little bit of that warm silence into your interactions. Be the one who listens more than they speak. Be the one who offers a quiet word of encouragement or a simple smile. You'll be surprised at how much of a difference it makes to the people around you. I once heard a story about a man who was looking for the secret of happiness. He traveled all over the world and asked many wise people, but no one could give him a satisfactory answer. Finally, he met an old woman who lived in a tiny cottage in the mountains. She told him, "The secret of happiness is to find the silence in your heart and never let it go." That is such a simple and profound truth. Our happiness doesn't depend on what's happening outside of us, it depends on the state of our own hearts. When we have silence in our hearts, we can be happy anywhere, even in the middle of a noisy city. So, keep looking for that silence. It's there, just under the surface, waiting for you to discover it. And once you find it, cherish it. It's the most precious thing you'll ever own. I'm so grateful for this time we've spent together. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you found these thoughts helpful and that they bring a little more peace to your day. You're a wonderful being, and I'm so glad to be on this journey with you. Just keep breathing, keep noticing, and keep being the beautiful being that you are. You've got this. Have a wonderful, quiet day, and I'll talk to you soon. One last thing to remember, silence is not a destination, it's a way of traveling. It's not something you get to at the end of the day, it's something you bring with you into every moment. So, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the noise and the quiet, the busy times and the still times. It's all part of the beautiful dance of life. May you always be surrounded by the quiet light of awareness, and may your heart be always at peace. You are doing a great job, and I am so proud of you. Until next time, take care and be well. The river of life in the city never truly stops, and yet, if you look closely at the way a bridge spans across the water, you see how it remains perfectly still while everything else flows beneath it. You can be that bridge. The thoughts and the sounds are the water, moving and changing, while your awareness is the solid structure that allows life to pass without being swept away. This stability is something you develop by noticing the small, quiet anchors in your environment. Perhaps it is the way a shadow moves slowly across a brick wall in the afternoon, or the rhythm of your own footsteps as you walk to a meeting. These are not just mundane details, they are invitations to return to the core of your being. In the chronicles of ancient wisdom, there is a story about a merchant who traveled with a large caravan through the desert. The noise was constant, the braying of camels, the shouting of drivers, and the relentless wind. He found himself growing weary and irritable until he noticed a small bird that followed the caravan. The bird did not chirp or flutter with anxiety, it simply glided on the thermal currents created by the heat. The merchant realized that the bird was using the very heat that exhausted the men to find its own ease. We can do the same with the energy of the city. Instead of seeing the vibrant noise as something that drains you, see it as the thermal current of human life. You can glide on it, observing the energy without having to generate it yourself. This shift in perspective is like a secret key that unlocks a different version of the world. When you stop resisting the pace of the city, you start to see the elegance in its complexity. You notice the way a crowd moves like a school of fish, effortlessly adjusting to each other's presence. There is a silent coordination happening all around us, a communal agreement to move together through space and Doijan. When you tap into this collective rhythm, you feel less like an isolated individual fighting against the world and more like a necessary part of a grand, unfolding story. The silence you find here is a silence of belonging, a quiet recognition that you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Think of the way a seasoned gardener listens to the earth. They don't just see dirt, they feel the moisture, the temperature, and the potential for life. Even in a small balcony garden or a row of pots on a windowsill, you can cultivate this deep listening. When you tend to a plant, you are engaging in a silent dialogue. You are responding to its needs, and in return, it offers you a glimpse into a slower, more deliberate pace of existence. A leaf does not unfurl in a hurry, and a flower does not bloom because it is being watched. It simply follows its own inner clock. By aligning yourself with that natural timing, you give your mind a break from the frantic ticking of the metropolitan clock. There was a traveler who visited a remote village where the people were known for their longevity and happiness. He expected to find them living in total solitude, but instead, he found them living in a very social and active community. When he asked their secret, a village elder pointed to a large stone in the center of the plaza. He explained that throughout the day, every villager would take a moment to simply touch the stone and breathe. They called it the touch of stillness. Even in the middle of a celebration or a busy market day, that 1 second of contact reminded them that their true essence was as solid and quiet as the rock. You can find your own stone of stillness in the city. It could be the handle of a door, the edge of your desk, or the railing of a subway stair. Let that physical contact be a signal to your mind to drop the noise and come back to the present. Mindfulness is not about trying to create a special state of mind, it is about uncovering the natural clarity that is already there. It is like cleaning a window. You don't create the light outside, you just remove the dust so the light can shine through. The noise and stress of the city are like the dust that settles on our perception. When we take a moment to be quiet, we are simply wiping the glass. We begin to see the people around us not as obstacles or annoyances, but as fellow travelers, each carrying their own joys and burdens. This clarity brings a natural sense of empathy. You might see a stranger on the street and, in a moment of quiet observation, feel a deep wish for their well-being. This is the silent language of the heart, and it is far more powerful than any spoken word. In the time of the Buddha, there was a monk who found it difficult to meditate because he was always thinking about the beautiful music he used to play before he joined the order. He felt that the silence of the monastery was empty and boring compared to the rich melodies of his past. The Buddha spoke to him about the strings of a lute, explaining that if the strings are too tight, they break, and if they are too loose, they produce no sound. The goal is to find the middle way. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the perfect tension of the soul. It is a state of being where you are neither too rigid nor too relaxed. When you find this inner harmony, the music of your life becomes a beautiful, wordless song that brings peace to everyone who hears it. You might notice that when you are in a rush, your peripheral vision narrows. You only see what is directly in front of you, and the rest of the world becomes a blur. But when you slow down and embrace the quiet, your vision expands. You start to notice the architecture of the buildings, the different shades of green in the park, and the subtle expressions on people's faces. The world becomes richer and more three-dimensional. This expanded awareness is a form of silence in itself. It is a way of saying, I am here, and I am seeing everything. It is a very grounding and affirming experience. There is a certain type of silence that comes from doing one thing at a time. In the city, we are often praised for multitasking, for being able to juggle a dozen different tasks at once. But this creates a lot of internal noise and friction. When you commit to doing just one thing, whether it is writing an email, cooking a meal, or simply walking to the bus, you eliminate that friction. You become fully immersed in the task, and the world's noise fades away. This is often called a flow state, but it is also a state of deep, functional silence. It is the peace of being whole. Consider the ancient story of the mountain that was made of pure crystal. Because it was so clear, it reflected everything around it perfectly. When the sun shone, the mountain glowed with light. When the clouds passed, it turned gray and soft. Yet, the crystal itself never changed. It remained pure and unmoving. Your mind has this same quality. The noise of the city, the demands of your job, and the fluctuations of your emotions are like the weather passing over the crystal mountain. They change the appearance of your day, but they cannot change the fundamental clarity of your awareness. Recognizing this gives you a profound sense of security. You don't have to fear the noise, because you know it cannot harm the core of who you are. Every time you choose to listen instead of reacting, you are building a temple of silence within yourself. If someone speaks to you with anger or frustration, you can choose to be the space that receives their words without adding your own fire to the mix. By remaining quiet and present, you often help the other person find their own calm. Silence is contagious in the best possible way. It acts as a cooling balm in a world that can often feel overheated and intense. You don't need to say anything profound to be a source of peace for others. Your steady, quiet presence is often enough. In the busy streets, look for the patterns that go unnoticed. Notice the way the wind plays with a discarded candy wrapper, or the way puddles reflect the neon signs after a rainstorm. There is a quiet art to the urban environment that reveals itself only to those who are willing to look with a still mind. When you find beauty in these unexpected places, you realize that the world is always trying to communicate with us, often in whispers. The noise is just the surface, the deeper reality is one of constant, quiet creation. There was a group of students who asked their teacher how to find peace when they lived in a house full of crying children and barking dogs. The teacher told them to listen to the sounds as if they were the sounds of nature. Instead of hearing a crying child, hear it as the sound of a young bird. Instead of hearing a barking dog, hear it as the sound of a distant storm. By removing the labels and the judgments we put on sounds, we remove the emotional sting they carry. The noise becomes neutral, and in that neutrality, we find our silence. It is our own labels that make the world feel noisy. Think of the way a deep forest manages to stay cool even on a hot summer day. The trees provide shade, and the moisture in the ground creates a natural cooling system. Your practice of mindfulness is like planting those trees. Every time you take a moment to be quiet, you are planting a seed of peace. Over time, these seeds grow into a dense forest of awareness that protects you from the heat and noise of the city. You carry your own climate with you. You don't have to wait for the world to be cool and quiet, you create that environment within your own heart. There is a beautiful stillness in the act of waiting. Often, we see waiting as a waste of time, something to be endured with impatience and frustration. But what if you saw waiting as a gift of silence? Whether you are waiting for a train, a friend, or a cup of coffee, those few minutes are a rare opportunity to do nothing. You can simply stand or sit and be. You can feel the air on your skin and listen to the world around you without any agenda. When you stop fighting the wait, it becomes a miniature retreat. You return to your day feeling refreshed instead of drained. In the old legends, there is a mountain that is so high that the top is always above the clouds. Down at the base, there might be thunder and lightning, but at the peak, it is always sunny and quiet. We all have that peak within us. Most of the time, we are living down at the base, caught in the storms of our daily lives. But through mindfulness, we can learn to ascend to that quiet peak whenever we need to. It doesn't mean we ignore the storms, but we see them from a different perspective. We know that above the clouds, the sun is always shining. You might find that your relationship with your own body changes as you embrace silence. In the rush of the city, we often treat our bodies like machines that are supposed to carry us from one task to the next. We ignore the subtle signals of tiredness or tension. But in the quiet, we can really feel our physical presence. We can notice the way our breath moves our ribs, or the way our muscles relax when we give them permission. This physical awareness is a direct path to silence. It brings our attention out of the noisy world of thoughts and into the quiet, felt reality of the present moment. There was a famous musician who was asked how he decided which notes to play. He said that he didn't focus on the notes, he focused on the silence between the notes. He said that the silence was the source of the music, and the notes were just there to give the silence a shape. This is a profound way to look at our lives. Our actions and our words are the notes, but our inner silence is the source. If we lose touch with that source, our lives become a chaotic noise. But when we stay connected to the silence, every action we take has a sense of purpose and beauty. In a city, we are often surrounded by people, yet we can feel very lonely. This loneliness is often a form of noise, the noise of our own longing and our sense of separation. But when we find our inner silence, we realize that we are never truly alone. We are connected to the vast, quiet energy that flows through everything. We feel a kinship with the trees, the animals, and even the inanimate objects of the city. This connection is silent and deep, and it fills the void that noise can never reach. It is a peace that goes beyond words. Consider the way a master calligrapher works. Before they ever touch the brush to the paper, they sit in silence for a long time. They quiet their mind and their body until they are perfectly still. Then, with one fluid motion, they create a beautiful character. The beauty of that character comes directly from the silence that preceded it. Our lives can be like that. When we act from a place of stillness, our actions are more precise, more effective, and more beautiful. We don't have to rush or force things, they happen naturally and with grace. Every evening as the sun begins to set, notice how the light changes. It becomes softer and warmer, and the shadows grow long. This is the earth's natural way of inviting us into silence. Even in the middle of a noisy city, you can feel this shift. The energy of the day starts to pull back, and a different, quieter energy begins to emerge. By tuning into this natural rhythm, you can ease the transition from the busyness of the day to the rest of the night. It is a time for letting go of the world's noise and returning to the sanctuary of your own heart. There is a story about a king who wanted to find the most peaceful sound in the world. He listened to the song of the birds, the sound of the wind, and the music of the finest harpists. But none of them seemed quite right. Finally, a wise old woman took him to a quiet courtyard where a single drop of water fell into a still pool every few minutes. The sound of the drop hitting the water was almost inaudible, but in the silence of the courtyard, it was the most beautiful thing the king had ever heard. It wasn't the sound itself that was peaceful, but the depth of the silence that allowed the sound to be heard. This is what we are looking for in our own lives, a depth of silence that makes even the smallest moment feel significant and beautiful. As you walk through the city today, try to be a person of quiet observation. Instead of immediately judging or reacting to what you see, just let it be. Notice the different colors of the cars, the patterns of the brickwork, the way the light reflects off the windows. By being a silent witness to the world, you create a space of peace around yourself. You are no longer being tossed around by the city's energy, you are the one who is observing the energy. This is a very powerful and liberating position to be in. The city's noise can sometimes feel like a wall that separates us from ourselves. But silence is like a doorway that leads us back home. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, just remember that the doorway is always there. You don't have to go anywhere special to find it. You just have to turn your attention inward and listen. The silence is always waiting for you, steady and unchanging, like an old friend who is always happy to see you. Think of the way a great poet uses words. They don't just use them to convey information, they use them to evoke a feeling, to create a space of reflection. Their words are like stepping stones that lead the reader into a deeper silence. Our own words can be like that too. When we speak with mindfulness and care, our words don't add to the world's noise, they help to quiet it. We can be poets of our own lives, using our actions and our speech to create beauty and peace in the middle of the city. There was a traveler who was lost in a dense fog. He couldn't see more than a few feet in front of him, and every sound seemed muffled and strange. He began to feel afraid, until he realized that the fog was also protecting him from the distractions of the world. In the fog, he had to focus entirely on his own footsteps and his own breath. He found a sense of peace he had never known before. Sometimes the fog of our busy lives can be a similar opportunity. If we stop trying to see the whole world and just focus on the present moment, we can find a deep and unexpected silence. The noise of the city is often the noise of human desire and ambition. Everyone is rushing to get somewhere, to achieve something, to be someone. But silence is the sound of contentment. It is the feeling that this moment, exactly as it is enough. When you find this contentment, the city's noise becomes irrelevant. You are no longer part of the race, you are simply a person walking on the earth, enjoying the experience of being alive. This is the true meaning of finding silence in a noisy world. Every morning before the city fully wakes up, there is a precious window of time where the world is naturally quiet. If you can, spend a few minutes in that early morning silence. Listen to the first few birds, the soft light of the dawn, the feeling of the world beginning to stir. This morning silence can act as a foundation for your entire day. It is like filling your cup with peace before you head out into the world. Even if the cup gets jostled later in the day, you will still have that reservoir of quiet within you. Consider the way a bridge is built. It starts with deep foundations that are anchored into the solid rock beneath the water. Only then can the structure rise up and span the river. Our mindfulness practice is like building those foundations. The deeper we go into the silence of our own being, the more stable we are in the face of the world's noise. We can span the complexities of modern life without being shaken, because we are anchored in something that is deeper and more permanent than the surface noise. In the ancient teachings, there is a concept called the unstruck sound. This is the sound that exists beneath all other sounds, the fundamental vibration of the universe. It is a sound of perfect silence and perfect energy. When we are very quiet, we can sometimes catch a glimpse of this unstruck sound. It is a feeling of deep resonance and belonging, a sense that we are part of a grand, cosmic harmony. In the city, this feeling might come to you in a moment of unexpected beauty, or in the middle of a quiet breath. It is a reminder that the silence we are looking for is not something we create, but something we participate in. There was a student who was frustrated because they couldn't find a quiet place to meditate. Everywhere they went, there was noise, traffic, construction, people talking. Their teacher took them to a busy construction site and told them to sit down and close their eyes. "Don't listen to the noise," the teacher said. "Listen to the space that the noise is happening in." The student realized that the space itself was perfectly quiet, no matter how much noise was happening inside it. This is a life-changing realization. You are the space. The noise of the city is happening within you, but the space of your awareness remains untouched. As you continue through your day, notice the moments where you feel a sense of ease and flow. These are the moments where your inner silence is shining through. Cherish these moments and see if you can expand them. It might be a moment of quiet connection with a friend, a moment of satisfaction in your work, or a moment of pure appreciation for the world around you. These are the building blocks of a peaceful life. You are creating your own sanctuary, one silent moment at a time. Think of the way a large ship moves through the water. It creates a wake behind it, but ahead of it, the water is smooth and calm. Most of us spend our lives looking at the wake, the noise, the past, the consequences of our actions. But mindfulness allows us to turn around and look at the calm water ahead. We can move into the future with a sense of peace and clarity, creating our own path in the silence of the present moment. You have the power to choose where you look. Look toward the silence. There is a profound dignity in being a person who is comfortable with silence. It shows that you don't need external validation or constant stimulation to feel complete. You are happy in your own company, and you are at peace with the world as it is. This is a very attractive and inspiring quality. People will be drawn to your calm energy, and you will find that your relationships become more honest and more meaningful. Your silence is a gift you give to yourself, but it is also a gift you give to everyone you meet. Every time you take a conscious breath, you are taking a step toward that inner silence. It is the most natural thing in the world, yet it is so easy to forget. Make your breath your constant companion. Let it be the thread that keeps you connected to your core, even in the middle of the most chaotic city street. Your breath is a silent prayer of presence, a reminder that you are alive and that you are okay. The city is full of voices, each one telling a different story. But beneath all the voices, there is a common language of silence. It is the language of the heart, the language of the soul. When we speak this language, we understand each other in a way that words can never express. We see the shared humanity in everyone we meet, and the city's noise becomes a beautiful, complex symphony of life. You are a part of that symphony, and your silence is an essential part of the melody. The rhythm of the city can often feel like a drum that never stops beating, demanding that we dance to its frantic pace until we are out of breath. But if you observe a master dancer, you see that their movements are not a reaction to the drum, but a conversation with the space around them. They find the stillness within the movement. You can approach your daily commute or your walk through a crowded plaza with that same sense of internal poise. Instead of letting the environment dictate your energy, you can let your inner calm set the tone for your surroundings. It is like carrying a small, invisible lantern through a dark alley. The light doesn't change the alley, but it completely changes how you experience walking through it. There is a story from the time of the Buddha about a man named Pukusati who sought a quiet place to rest for the night. He found shelter in a potter's shed on the outskirts of a busy town. Another traveler was already there, sitting in total silence. Pukusati didn't realize at first that he was sitting in the presence of the Buddha himself. They sat together in that simple, dusty shed while the sounds of the town faded into the distance. In that shared silence, Pukusati felt a profound sense of peace that no palace or crowded festival could ever provide. This reminds us that silence is often found in the most humble and unexpected places. You don't need a grand cathedral or a remote mountain. A quiet corner of your own home, or even a seat on a park bench, can become your potter's shed where you reconnect with the truth of your being. When we talk about the noise of the city, we often focus on what is outside our ears, but there is also the noise of our own expectations. We expect the light to turn green faster, we expect the person in front of us to move quicker, and we expect our day to go exactly as planned. This mental noise creates a layer of friction between us and reality. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to lay down these expectations. We accept the red light as a moment to breathe, and we accept the slow crowd as an opportunity to practice patience. By letting go of the should be, we arrive at the is, and in that arrival, there is an immediate and cooling silence. The world hasn't changed, but our struggle with it has ceased. Imagine the way a tree stands in the middle of a city park. Its roots reach deep into the dark, quiet earth, far below the vibration of the subway and the weight of the pavement. While its branches might be tossed by the wind and its leaves covered in urban dust, the core of the tree remains anchored in that subterranean silence. You can cultivate roots like that. Your roots are your values, your breath, and your connection to the present moment. The deeper your roots go, the less you are disturbed by the storms on the surface. You can watch the world go by with a steady gaze, knowing that your stability comes from a place the city cannot reach. In ancient times, a traveler once asked a sage how to hear the voice of the divine amidst the roar of a waterfall. The sage replied that the waterfall is the voice, but we are too busy trying to translate it into our own language to understand its meaning. This is often how we deal with the city. We try to interpret every siren, every shout, and every honk as something that concerns us personally. We turn every sound into a story about our own stress. But what if we heard the city as a natural phenomenon, no different from the wind in the trees or the crashing of waves? When sound is just sound, without a story attached to it, it loses its power to agitate. It becomes a backdrop to our own internal quiet, a part of the vast and curious landscape of existence. You might find that your sense of time shifts when you stop fighting the noise. In a state of hurry, time feels like a predator chasing us, but in a state of mindfulness, time becomes a spacious container. A minute of true silence in a busy elevator can feel like a restorative hour. You realize that you have more than enough time to be present. The feeling of being rushed is often just a form of mental noise, a vibration of anxiety that doesn't actually help us move faster. By dropping that noise, you move with a quiet efficiency that is both more productive and far more peaceful. You become the master of your time rather than its servant. There is a gentle joy in realizing that you do not have to have an opinion on everything you see and hear. The city bombards us with images and sounds that try to provoke a reaction, but you can choose to be like a clear mirror that simply reflects without grasping. You see a flashy billboard and you let it pass. You hear a loud argument and you let it pass. You don't have to carry these things with you. Your mind remains light and unburdened, a spacious hall where the world's events are guests that come and go but never leave a mess. This non-reactivity is a profound form of silence that protects your energy and keeps your heart soft. Think of the way a sculptor works with a block of stone. They don't add anything to the stone, they simply chip away everything that isn't the statue. Finding silence in a noisy world is a similar process of subtraction. You aren't trying to build a peaceful state, you are chipping away the layers of distraction, the habits of worrying, and the impulse to always be doing something. Beneath all that activity, the statue of your inner peace is already there, waiting to be revealed. Every time you say no to an unnecessary distraction or yes to a moment of stillness, you are refining that inner masterpiece. In the old stories, there was a weaver who could create the most beautiful silk, but only if he worked in a room where he could hear the sound of his own heartbeat. If the room was too loud, his hands would shake and the silk would be ruined. We are all weavers of our own lives. To create a life of beauty and meaning, we need to be able to hear our own hearts. The city noise is like the clatter outside the weaver's room. We cannot stop the clatter, but we can build our internal room with the walls of mindfulness. Within those walls, we can listen to the subtle rhythm of our intentions and ensure that every thread we weave is done with love and clarity. There is a certain beauty in the anonymity of the city. Among thousands of strangers, you have the freedom to be completely yourself in the quiet of your own mind. You can walk through a crowded station as a silent observer, a witness to the unfolding drama of life. This anonymity is not a form of isolation, but a form of sanctuary. It allows you to move without the noise of social performance. You are just a human being among human beings, sharing a moment of existence in the vast, silent universe. This realization can bring a deep sense of humility and peace, as you recognize your own small but perfect place in the grand scheme of things. Consider the way a bell continues to hum long after it has been struck. That lingering vibration is like the effect of a moment of silence on our busy days. Even after you leave your quiet corner and step back into the street, the hum of that peace stays with you. It colors your interactions and softens your edges. You might find yourself speaking more gently or walking with more ease. This is the practical power of silence. It doesn't just stay in the quiet room, it follows you into the noise, acting as an invisible buffer between you and the friction of the world. There was once a king who was so obsessed with quiet that he ordered all the birds in his kingdom to be moved far away. But without the birds, the insects multiplied and destroyed his gardens, and the silence felt heavy and dead. He realized that true peace is not about the absence of life, but the balance of it. The city's noise is a sign of life, of people working, creating, and connecting. When we find the silence within ourselves, We don't need to banish the birds of the city. We can appreciate the vibrant energy of the world while remaining centered in our own quiet garden. This balance is the hallmark of a mature and resilient peace. You can practice finding this balance in the middle of a conversation. While you are listening to someone speak, see if you can also be aware of the silence from which their words are arising. Notice the pauses, the breaths, and the space between their sentences. By listening to the silence as much as the words, you become a much more present and compassionate listener. You aren't just hearing information, you are feeling the presence of another human being. This silent connection is often more healing than any advice you could give. It creates a bridge of understanding that noise can never cross. Every time you look up at the sky between the skyscrapers, you are reminding yourself of the vastness that surrounds us. Even a small sliver of blue or the sight of a single star at night is a gateway to the eternal silence of space. The city is a human construction, but the sky is an ancient reality. By frequently turning your gaze upward, you shift your perspective from the local noise to the cosmic quiet. It reminds you that the world is much bigger than your current problems or the traffic jam you are sitting in. You are a citizen of the universe, and the universe is fundamentally peaceful. Think of the way a candle flame behaves in a drafty room. It flickers and dances, struggling to stay upright. But in a quiet, still room, the flame burns steady and bright, pointing straight toward the sky. Our mindfulness practice is like closing the windows of that room. We cannot stop the wind from blowing outside, but we can create a space within ourselves where our inner light can burn with a steady, quiet strength. That steady flame provides the clarity we need to navigate our lives with wisdom and grace. It becomes a beacon for others who are still struggling in the wind. In the ancient scriptures, there is a description of a forest that was so dense it remained dark and cool even at noon. The practitioners who lived there were said to have minds like that forest, so deep and settled that the sun of worldly desire could not provoke them. In the city, the sun is the constant pull of advertising, fashion, and the need to always have more. Silence is the cool forest of your mind. It allows you to be in the world of commerce and activity without being scorched by it. You can see the bright lights and the shiny things without feeling like you must possess them to be happy. You are content in the shade of your own awareness. There is a story about a master of the tea ceremony who lived in a very noisy part of a busy capital. When guests entered his tea room, they were amazed to find that the noise of the street seemed to vanish completely. When asked if he had used special magic to soundproof the walls, he laughed and said the only magic was the kettle. He had learned to listen to the sound of the water boiling until it became the only sound in his world. This is the power of single-pointed concentration. By giving your full, loving attention to one simple thing, you can transform any environment into a sanctuary. That noise doesn't go away, it simply becomes irrelevant in the face of your focused presence. As you walk through the city, notice the way the light reflects off different surfaces, the glass of a window, the chrome of a car, the water in a fountain. These reflections are like our thoughts, they are bright and distracting, but they are not the source of the light. Silence is the light itself. When you stop chasing the reflections and turn toward the source, you find a peace that is constant and self-sustaining. You realize that you don't need the world to provide you with peace, you are already made of it. You are the light that makes the reflections possible. There is a profound freedom in realizing that you don't have to win every argument or have the last word. Often, the loudest person in the room is the one who is the most insecure. Silence is a sign of inner strength and confidence. When you are at peace with yourself, you don't feel the need to defend your ego with a wall of words. You can listen with an open mind and respond with a few well-chosen words, or even with no words at all. This noble silence is a powerful way to de-escalate conflict and create a space where true understanding can happen. It is the quiet strength of a mountain that doesn't need to shout to be noticed. Every evening, take a moment to look at your hands and appreciate the work they have done during the day. Whether you were typing, carrying groceries, or holding a child, your hands have been active participants in the world. In the quiet of the evening, let them rest. Feel the weight of them in your lap. This simple physical recognition is a way of honoring your life and your efforts. It brings you back to the present moment and helps you transition into a state of rest. You are more than your productivity. You are a living, breathing being who deserves a moment of silent appreciation. Consider the way a lighthouse stands on a rocky shore. The waves crash against it, the wind howls, and the salt spray covers it, yet it remains steady and continues to shine its light into the darkness. Your inner silence is that lighthouse. It is not something that exists only when the weather is good. It is a source of guidance and stability that is especially important when the weather of your life is stormy. By cultivating this silence every day, you are ensuring that your light will be there when you need it most. You are building a resilience that can withstand any challenge. There was once a traveler who found a hidden valley where the air was so still that you could hear the sound of a falling leaf from a mile away. He stayed there for a month, and when he returned to the city, he found that he could still hear that silence underneath the roar of the traffic. He realized that the valley hadn't given him something new, it had simply reminded him of what was always there. We all have that hidden valley within us. Sometimes we need a quiet retreat to find it, but once we have felt its peace, we can carry it with us back into the busiest streets. The silence is not a place you go to, it is a quality you bring with you. Think of the way a musician tunes their instrument before a performance. They don't just start playing, they listen carefully to the subtle pitch of each string and make small adjustments until everything is in harmony. Mindfulness is the process of tuning the instrument of your mind. Through silence and awareness, you adjust your thoughts and your energy until you are in harmony with the present moment. This tuning is not a one-time event, it is something we do throughout the day. Every time you pause to take a breath or to look at a tree, you are tuning yourself back to the frequency of peace. In the city, we are often surrounded by artificial lights that make it hard to see the stars. But the stars are always there, shining with a quiet, ancient light. Our inner silence is like those stars. It can be easily obscured by the artificial lights of our worries, our desires, and our busy schedules. But when we turn down the volume of our lives and look inward, we find that the stars are still there, providing a constant sense of direction and wonder. You have a universe of peace within you that is much older and much larger than any city. There is a certain joy in being the first one awake in a quiet house, or the last one to leave a quiet office. These margins of the day are gifts of silence that allow us to reflect and recharge. Instead of rushing to fill these moments with music or podcasts, try sitting with the quiet for a few minutes. Notice the way the silence feels in the room. Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it expectant? By becoming a friend to the silence, you find that it is not empty, but full of a soft, supportive energy. It is the ground from which your best ideas and your kindest impulses arise. Consider the way a spider weaves its web. It works with a quiet, focused intensity, creating a structure that is both delicate and strong. The spider doesn't worry about the wind or the noise around it, it simply follows the pattern it knows by heart. We can move through our busy days with that same quiet focus. We can focus on the small, immediate tasks with a sense of craftsmanship and care. When we give our full attention to what we are doing, we are essentially weaving a web of mindfulness that catches the small joys of life and keeps us from falling into the noise of distraction. Every time you choose to be kind to a stranger in the city, you are contributing to a silent wave of compassion. A simple thank you, a patient smile, or a small act of courtesy is a way of acknowledging our shared humanity. These acts don't need to be loud to be powerful. In fact, their quietness is part of their strength. They remind everyone involved that there is more to life than the rush and the noise. They create a small ripple of peace that spreads out through the city, touching people in ways you may never know. You are a silent agent of kindness. There was a student who asked their teacher how to deal with the feeling of being overwhelmed by the world's problems. The teacher took a glass of water and added a spoonful of salt. "Taste this," the teacher said. The student made a face and said it was too salty to drink. Then the teacher took the student to a large, clear lake and threw a handful of salt into the water. "Now taste the lake," the teacher said. The student drank and said the water was fresh and sweet. The salt is the noise and trouble of the world, the container is your mind. If your mind is small like a glass, the trouble is overwhelming. But if your mind is vast like a lake, the trouble doesn't change its flavor. Silence is what makes your mind vast. Think of the way a deep, quiet pool reflects the trees and the sky perfectly. If you throw a stone into the pool, the surface becomes ruffled and the reflection is broken. But if you wait patiently, the ripples eventually fade and the pool becomes still again, reflecting the world once more. Our minds are like that pool. The events of the city are the stones that create the ripples. We don't need to fight the ripples, we just need to wait with a quiet heart. The stillness is the natural state of the pool, and it will always return if we allow it the space and time to settle. The architecture of our daily lives is often built with the bricks of sound and the mortar of movement, but the most important rooms in that house are the ones filled with nothing but light and air. You can think of your consciousness as a vast gallery where many exhibits are being displayed at once. There is the exhibit of your professional responsibilities, the exhibit of your social interactions, and the exhibit of your personal dreams. Amidst all these displays, there must be a corridor of silence that allows you to walk from one room to another without losing your sense of direction. This corridor is not a place where you hide from the world, but a place where you integrate your experiences, allowing the echoes of the day to soften into wisdom. There is an ancient story about a royal gardener who was tasked with creating a path through a dense thicket of thorns so the queen could walk to the river in peace. At first, the gardener tried to cut down every single thorn bush, but for every one he removed, 2 more seemed to grow back. He was exhausted and covered in scratches until a wandering sage suggested that instead of fighting the thorns, he should simply lay down a thick carpet of soft moss. By focusing on what he was adding rather than what he was removing, the gardener created a path of silence and comfort right in the middle of the sharpness. Our practice in the city is very much like that moss. We don't necessarily have to remove the thorns of loud neighbors or clattering trains. We simply lay down a carpet of mindfulness that allows us to walk through the environment without being wounded by it. When you sit in a crowded cafe, notice how the various sounds begin to layer on top of each other until they form a single, indistinct hum. If you try to follow every individual conversation, your mind becomes fragmented and tired. But if you relax your focus and let the hum become like the sound of a distant ocean, you can remain perfectly centered. This is the art of panoramic awareness. It is a way of holding the world in your lap without letting any single part of it take over your attention. This kind of silence is active and expansive. It is the silence of a wide open field where many different birds are singing, yet the field itself remains still and receptive. Think of the way a master weaver prepares their loom. They ensure that the vertical threads, the warp, are perfectly aligned and under the right amount of tension. Without these steady, unmoving threads, the horizontal shuttle cannot weave a coherent pattern. Your moments of silence are the warp of your life. They provide the stable framework upon which all your activities are woven. If you neglect these steady threads, the fabric of your day becomes loose and easily torn. But when you prioritize your quiet time, even the most complex and colorful shuttle of city life produces a result that is strong and beautiful. You aren't just surviving the day, you are creating a masterpiece of presence. In the time of the Buddha, there was a woman named Soma who lived in a bustling city and often felt that the noise made it impossible for her to attain a deep state of meditation. She believed that only those who lived in the deep forest could truly understand the nature of peace. One day, while she was sitting in a quiet corner of a public park, a voice in her mind tried to tell her that she was not capable of reaching high levels of insight because of her surroundings and her life as a city dweller. Soma recognized this voice not as a truth, but as another form of internal noise. She stood her ground and realized that her gender, her location, and her social status were all just surface details. The silence she sought was not located in the forest, but in the clarity of her own understanding. This is a powerful reminder for all of us. The city is not an obstacle to your spiritual growth, it is the very ground where that growth takes place. You might notice that when you are in a state of deep silence, your physical movements become more economical and graceful. There is a quietness in the way you pick up a pen or close a door. This is because you are no longer acting from a place of nervous energy, but from a place of conscious intent. This physical grace is a form of nonverbal communication that tells the world you are at peace. It can have a calming effect on everyone you encounter. When you move through a grocery store or a subway station with this kind of quiet dignity, you are silently inviting others to find their own center. You become a living example of the possibility of peace in the middle of the rush. There is a profound silence to be found in the act of forgiveness. When we hold on to grievances or anger, we are carrying a heavy, noisy burden in our hearts. Every time we think about the person who wronged us, the noise of that conflict starts up again. Forgiveness is the act of choosing to be quiet. It is deciding that your inner peace is more important than being right or getting revenge. When you let go of an old grudge, it is like a loud machine that has been running in the background for years suddenly being turned off. The silence that follows is incredibly sweet and liberating. It opens up a huge amount of mental space that can now be used for creativity and love. Consider the way a large building is constructed in a modern city. The engineers must account for the vibrations of the surrounding traffic and the wind. They build dampers into the structure that absorb these vibrations, allowing the building to sway slightly without cracking. Your silence is your internal damper. It is the quality that allows you to be flexible and resilient. When the world pushes against you, your silence allows you to absorb the pressure and remain standing. Without this internal flexibility, we become brittle and easily broken by the stresses of urban life. By practicing stillness, you are making yourself strong enough to handle any vibration. Every time you choose to buy something or use a resource with mindfulness, you are engaging in a silent act of stewardship. The noise of consumerism tells us that we always need more, but the silence of contentment tells us that we have enough. By choosing quality over quantity, and by being grateful for what you already have, you are quieting the hunger of the mind. This leads to a life that is simpler and more meaningful. You stop being a target for every advertisement and start being a conscious creator of your own experience. The silence of a minimalist heart is a very deep and stable kind of happiness. There was once a famous musician who played the cello in a busy subway station as an experiment. Thousands of people rushed past him, most of them not even noticing the incredible beauty of the music. But a few people stopped. A child pulled on their mother's sleeve to stay and listen. A businessman slowed his pace and wiped a tear from his eye. These people had found a crack in the noise of their day, and through that crack, the beauty of the music reached them. Our job is to be like those who stopped. We need to be on the lookout for the music that is always playing in the gaps of our busy schedules. Whether it is the song of a bird, the smile of a stranger, or the beauty of the light on a building, these are the notes of a silent symphony that can nourish our souls if we only stop to listen. Think of the way a bridge spans a wide river. It doesn't fight the water, it simply provides a way for people to cross over it. The bridge remains steady while the water beneath it is constantly changing. You can be the bridge in your own life. The river is the flow of events and emotions that make up your day. Your silence is the steady structure that allows you to cross from morning to night without being swept away. By anchoring yourself in the present moment, you provide a safe passage for yourself and for those you care about. You become a point of stability in an ever-changing world. In the ancient stories, there was a king who could only fall asleep if he heard the sound of a particular silver bell. One night, the bell was lost, and the king was in despair. He sent his servants all over the kingdom to find it, but no one could. Finally, a simple monk came to the palace and told the king that the sound of the bell was not in the silver, but in the king's own listening. The monk taught the king how to listen to the silence of his own heart, and the king found that he could sleep better than ever before. This story teaches us that the tools we think we need for peace are often just distractions. The peace we seek is not in a special app, a particular cushion, or a distant location. It is in the quality of our own attention. There is a quiet power in the act of being humble. In a city where everyone is trying to make it and be noticed, humility is a radical act of silence. It is the realization that you are just one small part of a vast and interconnected whole. When you let go of the need to be the center of attention, you find a great sense of freedom. You stop worrying about what people think of you and start focusing on how you can be of service. This shift from me to we is a silent revolution that brings a deep and lasting peace. You become like the water that always seeks the lowest place and yet has the power to carve through stone. Every evening, as you prepare for sleep, try to let go of the story of your day. We often lie in bed and replay the events of the last few hours, thinking about what we said, what we did, and what we should have done differently. This is just more internal noise. Instead, try to focus on the physical sensations of lying in bed, the weight of your body, the coolness of the sheets, the sound of your own breath. Let the events of the day dissolve into the silence of the night. You are not your day, and you are not your story. You are the quiet awareness that experienced it all. By letting go, you allow yourself to enter a state of deep and restorative rest. Consider the way a lighthouse works. It doesn't go out looking for ships to save, it simply stands in one place and shines its light. The ships use the light to find their own way. Your inner silence is like that light. You don't have to go out and fix the world or tell everyone how to live. You simply have to maintain your own peace and clarity. By being a person of silence, you provide a point of reference for others. Your calm presence is a silent signal that peace is possible, even in the middle of a noisy world. You become a beacon of hope without even saying a word. There was once a student who asked their teacher how to know if they were making progress on the path of mindfulness. The teacher replied, "You will know you are making progress when the world seems quieter, even when the noise is the same." This is a profound insight. The noise of the world is a constant, but our reaction to it is a variable. As we become more settled in our own silence, the volume of the world's demand seems to decrease. We are no longer as easily triggered or as easily distracted. We move through the world with a sense of quiet confidence, knowing that our peace is not at the mercy of our environment. Think of the way a massive mountain remains still, even when it is covered in clouds or battered by a storm. The mountain doesn't try to push the clouds away, it simply waits for them to pass. This is the quality of equanimity. It is a silent strength that allows us to remain steady in the face of both praise and blame, success and failure. When we are anchored in our inner silence, we are like that mountain. The ups and downs of life are just the weather passing over us. They might change our appearance for a while, but they cannot change our fundamental nature. We remain vast, silent, and unshakable. In the city, we often feel like we are always behind, always trying to catch up with our schedules and our ambitions. This feeling of being behind is a form of mental noise that creates a lot of stress. But in the silence of the present moment, there is no such thing as being behind. You are exactly where you are, and that is the only place you can be. By accepting this simple truth, you can let go of the frantic energy of catching up. You can move at your own pace, with a sense of quiet purpose. You realize that the only way to truly get ahead is to be fully present right now. There is a beautiful silence in the act of being patient with yourself. We are often our own harshest critics, creating a lot of internal noise with our self-judgments and our unrealistic expectations. When you practice self-compassion, you are essentially quieting that critical voice. You are saying to yourself, it's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. This internal kindness creates a soft and silent space where you can truly grow. You stop fighting yourself and start supporting yourself. This is the foundation of a truly peaceful life. Every time you choose to listen to someone with your full attention, you are creating a temple of silence for them to speak into. You aren't just hearing their words, you are holding their presence. This is one of the greatest gifts you can give to another person. In a world where everyone is talking over each other, being truly heard is a rare and precious experience. Your silent attention allows the other person to feel valued and understood. It creates a deep bond of connection that goes beyond language. You are being a silent witness to the beauty and the struggle of another human soul. Consider the way a seed grows under the ground. It is perfectly quiet and dark, yet there is an incredible amount of activity happening. The seed is gathering energy, extending its roots, and preparing to sprout. Our times of silence are like that time under the ground. We may not feel like we are doing much, but we are actually doing the most important work of all. We are nurturing our inner potential and preparing ourselves for the next phase of our journey. Silence is not a lack of action, it is the source of all wise action. By honoring the quiet times, we ensure that our sprouting will be strong and healthy. The ancient stone walls of a city often hold the secrets of thousands of years, standing as silent witnesses to the rise and fall of countless generations. When you place your hand against such a wall, you can feel a stillness that is far older than the modern pavement beneath your feet. This is the same stillness that exists within you, a timeless foundation that remains unmoved by the fleeting trends and frantic updates of the digital age. We often feel a pressure to keep up with the changing world, but there is a profound relief in realizing that the most essential parts of life do not change at all. The way a mother loves her child, the way the morning sun warms the skin, and the way a deep breath settles the mind are universal and eternal. By connecting with these constants, you tap into a reservoir of silence that is not dependent on the speed of your internet connection or the status of your bank account. In a village near the foothills of the Himalayas, there was a potter who was famous for creating vessels that seemed to radiate a sense of calm. When a curious traveler asked how he infused such peace into his clay, the potter replied that he did not work with the clay at all. Instead, he worked with the space inside the clay. He said that while the clay provides the shape, it is the empty space within that makes the bowl useful. This is a vital lesson for our lives in the city. We spend so much time focusing on the clay of our outer lives, our possessions, our titles, and our schedules. But it is the space of silence within us that truly defines our capacity to hold joy, wisdom, and compassion. Without that inner emptiness, we are just solid blocks of stress, unable to receive the gifts that life offers us every day. You might notice that in the most crowded train station, there is often a stray cat or a small bird that moves with a total lack of concern for the human rush. They are not ignoring the world, they are simply not getting caught in the psychological noise of being busy. They move when they need to move and they rest when they need to rest. We can adopt a similar kind of natural wisdom. You can be in the middle of a high-stakes meeting or a difficult negotiation and still maintain a backstage of internal silence. This doesn't make you less effective. In fact, it makes you more sharp and clear-headed. When you are not leaking energy into anxiety and overthinking, you have more resources to devote to the task at hand. You become like a seasoned captain who stays calm in the eye of a storm, making decisions with a steady hand because his internal compass is not spinning with the wind. There is a unique kind of silence that comes from the practice of letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. In the city, we often feel a desperate need to explain ourselves, to justify our choices, and to make sure everyone sees us in a certain light. This creates a massive amount of mental chatter. But there is a great freedom in that noble silence of self-validation. When you know who you are and what your values are, the noise of other people's opinions becomes like a distant radio station that you have forgotten to tune into. You don't need to shout to be heard, and you don't need to argue to be right. You can simply be, and let your actions speak for themselves. This quiet confidence is one of the most attractive and peaceful ways to live in a modern society. Think of the way a massive iron bell is cast. It requires a tremendous amount of heat and intense labor, but once it is finished, it only needs a gentle tap to produce a sound that can be heard for miles. Your challenges and the heat of your city life are the process of your own casting. The difficulties you face are tempering your spirit and making you strong. The goal of mindfulness is not to avoid the fire, but to use the fire to become a resonant instrument of peace. When you have been forged in the silence of self-reflection, your presence becomes like that bell. You don't have to do much to have a positive impact on the world. Just by standing in your truth and staying quiet in your heart, you radiate a frequency that calms the nerves of everyone you meet. In the records of the ancient seekers, there is a story of a student who was frustrated because he felt that his mind was like a jar of muddy water. No matter how hard he tried to fix the water, it remained cloudy. His teacher told him to simply put the jar down on a table and walk away. After an hour, the student returned to find that the mud had naturally settled to the bottom, and the water was perfectly clear. This is the essence of finding silence in a noisy world. Often, the more we try to think our way into peace, the more we stir up the mud. Silence is not something you do, it is something you allow to happen by stopping the stirring. When you stop fighting your thoughts and stop trying to force your mind to be quiet, the clarity reveals itself on its own. Consider the way a master archer breathes before releasing an arrow. In that moment of perfect aim, the whole world disappears. There is no crowd, no noise, and no pressure of success or failure. There is only the breath, the bow, and the target. This point of stillness is available to us in every activity, whether we are washing a dish, writing a report, or simply walking across a room. By narrowing your focus to the single point of the present action, you create a vacuum that sucks out the noise of the world. You find a state of action and inaction, where the work seems to do itself. This is the pinnacle of urban Zen, being fully engaged with the world while remaining completely detached from the chaos. Every morning, the city performs a silent miracle that we often miss. Before the first car starts and the first shop opens, there is a moment when the light is gray and the air is perfectly still. In that moment, the city is not a machine of commerce, but a living, breathing entity that is resting before the day. If you can catch even a glimpse of this pre-noise city, it changes your relationship with the urban landscape. You see that the noise is just a layer, like a coat that the city puts on in the morning and takes off at night. Beneath the coat, there is always the silence of the earth upon which the city is built. By remembering this, you realize that you are never truly trapped in the noise. You are always standing on the quiet, ancient ground. There is a profound silence in the act of being curious. When we are curious, we stop judging and start observing. Instead of saying, "This traffic is loud and annoying," we can say, "I wonder how all these different engines create this specific harmony." By shifting from a state of resistance to a state of wonder, we neutralize the emotional impact of the noise. Curiosity is a silent opening of the mind. It allows us to see the world with the eyes of a child, where everything is new and interesting. In a city that often feels cynical and tired, the silence of a curious heart is a breath of fresh air. It keeps you young, alert, and deeply connected to the magic of being alive. Think of the way a deep, subterranean spring feeds a forest. The spring is hidden and quiet, yet it is the source of all the vibrant life above ground. Your daily practice of silence is that spring. It is the hidden source of your patience, your creativity, and your resilience. Even when you are in the middle of a loud, dusty construction site, that spring is still flowing deep within you. You can take a sip of that silence anytime you want just by closing your eyes for a second or taking a conscious breath. You are never far from the source. The more you visit this internal spring, the more it begins to overflow into your external life, turning your desert of city stress into a lush garden of peace. In the old traditions, it was said that a truly wise person could hear the grass growing. This doesn't mean they had supernatural hearing. It means their minds were so quiet that they could perceive the most subtle movements of life. In our modern world, we are so used to the loud events, the big news, the major crises, the shouting headlines, that we lose our sensitivity to the quiet growth. We miss the subtle shifts in our own feelings, the small signs of kindness from others, and the slow unfolding of our own potential. By cultivating silence, you reclaim your sensitivity. You start to hear the grass growing in your own life. You notice the small blessings that were always there, but were simply drowned out by the noise of your own busyness. There is a certain dignity in the way a mountain holds the snow. It doesn't complain about the weight or the cold, it simply carries it until the sun comes to melt it away. We often carry a lot of snow in the city, the weight of our responsibilities, the chill of social isolation, the pressure to perform. Silence is the sun that eventually melts the snow. By sitting in the quiet and observing your burdens without judging them, you allow them to soften and dissolve. You realize that you don't have to do anything about your stress except to stop identifying with it. You are the mountain, not the snow. The snow will come and go, but you remain vast, silent, and dignified. Think of the way a lighthouse beam cuts through a thick fog. The light doesn't make the fog go away, but it provides a clear direction for those who are lost. Your inner silence is that beam of light. In a world that is often foggy with confusion and misinformation, your clarity is a precious resource. When you speak from a place of silence, your words have a weight and a truth that people can feel. You don't need to shout to be heard. The quality of your presence is enough to guide others toward their own peace. You become a lighthouse for your family, your friends, and your community, simply by being the one who knows how to stay quiet. Every evening, when you turn off the lights in your home, there is a moment of total darkness and silence before your eyes adjust. In that moment, the world of forms disappears, and you are left with just the pure experience of being. This is a very powerful reminder of our true nature. We are not the things we see, the sounds we hear, or the roles we play. We are the silence that remains when everything else is turned off. By spending a few moments in this dark silence every night, you prepare yourself for a deep and restorative sleep. You let go of the day's identity and return to the vast, nameless peace from which you came. You wake up the next morning feeling like a new person, ready to dance with the noise once again. There was once a great leader who was known for making very wise decisions under intense pressure. When asked his secret, he said that every time he had to make a choice, he would first go to a quiet room and listen to the sound of a clock. He said that the steady tick-tock of the clock reminded him that time is always moving, and that most of the things we worry about are just passing clouds. The silence between the ticks was where he found his answers. This is the power of perspective. In the city, everything feels urgent and immediate, but in the silence of the ticks, we find the long view. We see that most of our emergencies are not emergencies at all, but just part of the natural flow of life. The reflection of the moon in a puddle on a city street is just as bright and clear as its reflection in a pristine mountain lake. The water may be surrounded by concrete and the air filled with the scent of rain and exhaust, but the moon remains indifferent to its container. This is the ultimate realization of our journey through the urban landscape. Your inner peace is not a fragile thing that needs to be protected in a glass jar. It is a radiant light that can shine anywhere, under any conditions. We often think of silence as a destination, a place we will finally reach when we retire or when the weekend arrives. But true silence is a travel companion that walks beside us through the neon lights and the crowded intersections. It is the steady hand on your shoulder when the world feels too fast, and the soft whisper in your ear reminding you that you are much more than the sum of your tasks. There is a beautiful story from the ancient records of a monk who lived in a cave near a very loud and busy trade route. For years, he struggled with the noise of the passing caravans, the bells of the horses, and the shouting of the traders. He built thicker and thicker doors, but the vibration always found a way in. One day, he decided to leave his cave and sit right by the side of the road. He watched the people, the dust, and the chaos with a heart of complete openness. He stopped trying to shut the world out and instead invited the whole world into his meditation. In that moment, the noise ceased to be an intruder and became a song of life. He found a silence that was so vast it could hold the entire trade route without being disturbed. You have that same capacity. You don't need to build walls against the city. You simply need to expand your heart until the city has plenty of room to move within you. When you walk through a plaza filled with people from every corner of the world, notice the incredible diversity of their movements, their clothing, and their expressions. This is the human forest, and it is just as sacred as any grove of ancient trees. Every person you pass is a living, breathing miracle, a unique combination of stardust and story. When you view the crowd with this silent sense of wonder, the noise of their voices becomes a beautiful, complex harmony. You realize that you are not a separate observer looking at a crowd, but a single thread in a magnificent, moving tapestry. This feeling of interconnection is a form of deep silence that dissolves the walls of the ego. You feel a sense of peace that comes from knowing you are part of a grand and purposeful design, even if the purpose is as simple as being alive together in this moment. Think of the way a great architect designs a building to let in as much natural light as possible. They use windows, skylights, and open spaces to ensure that the light can reach even the deepest corners of the structure. Your mindfulness practice is the architecture of your soul. You are creating windows of silence in your busy schedule, skylights of awareness in your crowded mind, and open spaces of compassion in your heart. This allows the light of your true nature to illuminate every part of your life. Even when you are performing a mundane task like waiting for a bus or answering an email, that light is present, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. You become a person who carries their own sunshine, unaffected by the weather of the city. In the Chronicles of the Heart, there is a mention of a silent melody that can only be heard when the mind is perfectly still. It is not a sound that enters through the ears, but a resonance that is felt in the very marrow of our bones. It is the vibration of existence itself, the quiet yes that the universe says to life every single second. In the city, we are often so busy saying no to things we don't like, or maybe to things we are afraid of, that we miss this fundamental yes. By practicing silence, you align yourself with this universal affirmation. You stop fighting the flow and start moving with it. You find that life becomes a graceful dance, even when the music is loud and the floor is crowded. You are at home in the world, just as you are. There is a profound freedom in the act of being simple. The city offers us endless choices, endless products, and endless ways to define ourselves. This complexity can be a source of great mental noise. But when you embrace simplicity, you are essentially quieting the world. You choose to need less, to want less, and to do less, but with more heart. You find that a simple meal, a simple walk, and a simple conversation are more than enough to fill your cup. This silence of simplicity is a very stable and resilient kind of happiness. It doesn't depend on the fluctuations of the market or the opinions of the crowd. It is a treasure that you carry within you, a secret garden that is always in bloom. Consider the way a master calligrapher prepares their ink. They grind the ink stone with water in a slow, circular motion for a long time before they ever pick up their brush. This preparation is not just a technical necessity, it is a meditation. By the time they are ready to write, their mind and body are perfectly synchronized and their internal noise has settled. Our lives are the same. We need these grinding moments of silence to prepare us for the brushstrokes of our daily actions. Whether it is 5 minutes of breathing before you leave for work or a quiet moment of reflection before you speak, these preparations ensure that your life is a work of art, created with intention and grace. You are the artist, and the silence is your most important tool. Every time you choose to be patient with someone who is being difficult, you are performing a silent act of peace. You are refusing to let their noise become your noise. You are choosing to be the space that absorbs their frustration and offers back a quiet, steady presence. This is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of immense inner strength. It shows that you are the master of your own energy. By remaining calm, you create a pocket of peace in the middle of a conflict, providing a chance for the other person to find their own center again. Your silence becomes a healing balm, a way of quietly repairing the world one interaction at a time. Think of the way the stars appear in the night sky over a city. They are always there, but we can only see them when we turn away from the bright streetlights. Our inner wisdom is like those stars. It is always present, providing a constant source of guidance and inspiration. But to see it, we must periodically turn away from the artificial lights of our busy lives, the constant stimulation, the endless information, and the frantic activity. We need the darkness of silence to see the light of our own souls. By making a habit of looking inward, you develop a sense of direction that is not dependent on external maps. You trust your own inner light to lead you through the most complex urban mazes. There is a certain beauty in the way a city breathes at night. The frantic energy of the day settles into a steady, rhythmic pulse. The lights of the buildings look like a galaxy of stars brought down to earth. In this quiet time, the boundaries between people and things seem to soften. You can feel a sense of shared rest, a collective exhaling of the day's efforts. This is a natural time for gratitude. As you sit in the quiet of your room, let your heart be filled with thanks for the simple fact of being alive. Be grateful for the strength that carried you through the day, the people who touched your life, and the silence that is now holding you in its arms. This silence of gratitude is the perfect way to end any day. In the old legends, there was a bell that would ring on its own whenever a truly peaceful person entered the village. The bell didn't ring because the person did anything special, it rang because the quality of their presence was so clear that it resonated with the silver of the bell. You can be that kind of person. Your silence can be a resonant force that brings out the best in everyone you meet. You don't need to preach or to teach, you simply need to be. Your calm, steady presence will naturally encourage others to find their own peace. You become a bell of mindfulness for the city, a quiet reminder that beneath all the noise, there is a deep and beautiful stillness that belongs to everyone. Every morning, when you open your eyes and see the first light of the new day, remember that you have a choice. You can choose to enter the world with a noisy, hurried mind, or you can choose to carry the silence of the night with you. Let your first few minutes be perfectly quiet. Don't reach for your phone or turn on the news. Just be with yourself and the emerging light. This early morning silence is a seed that will grow into a tree of peace that provides shade for you all day long. You are the gardener of your own mind, and you have the power to create a life of profound quiet and beauty, right here in the heart of the noisy world. Think of the way a deep, wide river moves through a valley. On the surface, there might be ripples and splashes, but deep down, the water is moving with a powerful, silent force. Your life is that river. The noise and activity are just the surface ripples, but your inner purpose and your connection to the truth are the deep, silent current. No matter how much wind blows on the surface, the deep water continues to flow steadily toward the ocean. By staying connected to your inner silence, you ensure that your life is moving in the right direction. You have a sense of destiny and flow that the city's noise can never disturb. You are moving toward the vast, silent ocean of peace that is your true home. There is a sense of completion that comes with silence. It is the feeling that you have arrived, that you are enough, and that this moment is perfect just as it is. In a world that is always telling us to be more and do more, this is a radical and liberating realization. You can stop running. You can stop searching. You can just be. The silence is not a void that needs to be filled, it is a fullness that satisfies all your longings. It is the end of the search and the beginning of the true life. By resting in this silence, you find a happiness that is not of this world, yet is perfectly at home in it. You have found the silence in the noise, and you are finally at peace. As you move forward from here, carry these reflections with you like a handful of polished stones in your pocket. Whenever you feel the noise of the world starting to press in, just reach in and touch one. Let it remind you of the bridge, the crystal mountain, the master calligrapher, and the silent moon in the puddle. Let it remind you that you are a being of immense depth and quiet strength. The city will continue to roar, the traffic will continue to flow, and the world will continue its frantic dance. But you will be the one who knows the secret of the still center. You will be the one who can find the silence in every breath and the peace in every step. You are a child of silence, and the whole world is your sanctuary.